We knew we weren't going to win every single game. We knew we couldn't win all of them. We did look at this game and go, this is one of them, innit? This is one of them. But Crookie, you can't win them all. But the performance, though, how alarming was it?
Um, it's been coming, Flex, to be honest. You know, you look at the recent games against Palace until Lacroix was sent off. United was second best. West Ham away last midweek. They were very laboured and lethargic and needed that late goal from Benjamin Šeško to rescue a point there. Fulham at home. Brilliant moment for Šeško with a winner in front of the Stretford end. But again, it wasn't a particularly cohesive performance. So that's why I had a bit of trepidation going into this game. But I do think some of the reaction, and I'm going to name and shame him, Paul Scholes, what are you doing with that Instagram post? It's massively over the top. You have to remember, this is not Michael Carrick's team. He's come in because the club have pulled the emergency cord because under the previous manager, the team was going nowhere. But he hasn't got a magic wand. We thought he might have had a magic wand when he beat Manchester City, when he won at Arsenal, when he beat Spurs at home, when he put together that run of results to go from mid-table mediocrity into third place in the league. We were going to lose eventually. And I think what's important now is not to overly analyse what went wrong at St James's Park. Although Tyrell Malacia, if you're watching this morning, you should be hanging your head in shame, fella. But it's how they move on now, the team. They've got a weekend off, which might not be ideal. I think Carrick would rather have had another game. But you learn more about your players in defeat and adversity than you do when things are going well. So now we're going to see what Carrick and those players are really made of.
Yeah, I mean, Crookie, you went there quite early, to be fair, with the Paul Scholes situation. I was going to get to that. But, you know, since we've arrived there, it was absolutely, I just don't, it's just weird energy. I don't know. It like trying to point score on Man United fans, almost waiting to, I don't know, waiting for us to lose so we can try and make a point. Oh, has he deleted it?
Now.
I just think he's trying to.
Cowardly.
100%. I just think he's trying to do exactly this, you know, Crookie. Because after the Lisandro Martinez debacle with Nicky Butt, we maybe learned a little bit about Scholesy in terms of where his head's at and like what his priorities are at the minute, which is, you know, getting himself in the media, provoking reaction, provoking emotion, getting the podcast numbers up. And it just feels like he's trying to do that. This is a guy, Michael Carrick's a guy shared a dressing room with and won 5 Premier Leagues, a Champions League. You know, I don't understand what he feels like he's trying to gain from that, and the wording of it is not constructive. I see Stan Collymore on X all the time breaking down what's gone on at Villa after, you know, in the run that they're on. That's somebody who loves his football club, who wants to offer some constructive criticism. I just would have expected better when, you know, the Busby Babes and the class of 92 is running through the veins, Ange, of Paul Scholes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Paul had enjoyed a few beverages that night, but there is no excuse. You know, you were a professional footballer, a legendary player for Manchester United, and you've now put yourself back into the spotlight voluntarily, doing punditry and podcasts. So you have to appreciate that there is a level of responsibility, and I think he needs to decide what he wants to be, because if he wants to be taken seriously as a podcaster, as a pundit, personal vendetta should not be clouding his judgment. And to take glee in Manchester United losing is absolutely disgusting. If you don't like Michael Carrick, then fine, but he should like Man United more than he dislikes Michael Carrick or whatever the issue is. It tarnishes his legacy as a Man United legend. The respect that he got for his time as a footballer means nothing if he can't step back and see things from an unbiased point of view. And I hope the likes of Gary Neville, Rio Ferdinand, etc. are messaging him today saying, what are you playing at? Because they all get, you know, tarred with the same brush, and people will be thinking, oh, is this what all the ex-pros think? He's spoken about his struggles getting tickets, him and Nicky Butt. Good. Shouldn't get a ticket. Shouldn't be at Old Trafford if you're going to take glee in them losing. And I also think, one last point on it, he has been an interim manager. He's been a caretaker manager at Salford City, where, you know, he was a shareholder. And, you know, during his managerial career, he has a win percentage of 30.77%. Michael Carrick's win percentage as Man United manager is 72%, and that's based on a similar volume of games. So I think that he really needs to look within. You're going after a former teammate, like you say, but you know what it's like to be in a dugout, to have to go through some of these trials and tribulations, and to throw him under the bus like that, yeah, disgusting.
Yeah, it was. And I think Go on, Crookie.
Do you think this all comes down to the fact that basically Paul Scholes is better mates with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer than he is with Michael Carrick because
That's pathetic. That's the reason.
You have to draw on that, Crookie. I think you got something there.
Well, because he
I
criticised
do.
Carrick for staying on after Ollie was fired, and obviously during his first spell as caretaker manager. You've had Roy Keane come out, and he's been quite derogatory about Carrick as well at times, and we know that he's good pals with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, I think that's a really bad look if that is the case. But it was the language, wasn't it? You know, you can be disappointed.
I think exactly.
With the United.
What Tonali got to do with it? Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, Tonali, that's more like we need a midfielder that looks like him. But again,
but still,
Man United fans know that. We know we're in the market in the summer. So all we keep talking about is Tonali, Gomez, Anderson, Baleba, Wharton. Newsflash, Man United need physical midfielders. Newsflash, Man United need to improve in that area. We know that. And it did just come across as trying to get a reaction, trying to be in the headlines, and offering no sort of constructive criticism or anything. Just trying to point score and waiting for the moment that we lost the game so we could have that moment, because we haven't seen him there. And you're right. You know, when it was Ollie, I remember him staunchly sort of defending Ollie, this, that, and the other. Good guy. Oh yeah, he can turn it around. This, that, and the other. Roy Keane, you know, he said he doesn't support Man United the other day. I kind of expect it from Keano, because you kind of know what he is. He, you know, legend of our football club. He's done his best work here, but he left on sour grapes with Sir Alex. It's never quite been the same, and he makes no mistake of sort of saying that. But I expect different from Paul Scholes, who's come through the class of '92. But maybe we're the problems. You know, maybe we're the ones who are expecting too much from these legends. And I would say, some United fans have sort of said, the standards are on the floor. He's right. The last 4 games have been bad. It's the way you portray the message. It's the intent behind your message. Yeah. And I don't think that Paul Scholes' intent was pure behind what he was doing. And that's the issue I have with it. Not us talking, you know, quite calmly and measured about how we have been, like you said, Crookie, that, you know, this result was going to catch up to us. Back to the game, though. Ange, was this as bad as, you know, some of us are saying it is? In terms of performance, how denting is it? And are you concerned that, you know, like Crookie said, the performances are catching up with us? Or was this just somewhere where we haven't won, take out COVID, since 2019? Difficult place to go, no matter how good or bad they're playing. And we just didn't show up on the night.
Yeah, I mean, for Newcastle, it seems like there is something about this game that gets them up for it. You know, it's like they are ready to fire on all cylinders when they're facing Man United, especially at St James's Park. I think they showed their quality. I think that they deserved the win. Aaron Ramsdale being picked over Nick Pope, I thought it was a good call. I think from a Manchester United perspective, the damage is not too bad. We are still in a Champions League place. Liverpool lost 24 hours earlier against the league's bottom club. We've got Aston Villa, who were battered by Chelsea. So I think overall, when you think about the teams that are scrapping for these Champions League spots, Manchester United are the only team that don't have, you know, cup competitions or Europe, etc., also distracting them. So I think that United overall just lacked energy. I think it was too slow, the build-up, lack of urgency. And these midweek games have just not been good enough, like the West Ham game. And I don't know if this is an issue with... I'd read somewhere that Carrick had been shortening the training sessions, and I think it was maybe a good idea short-term to get everyone feeling more positive, more relaxed. But maybe he needs to be a bit tougher, get the players a bit fitter. He's got 10 days until the Villa game now. Maybe it's time to maybe make them run a little bit more in training. But I just think that it did feel like it was coming. Like Crook said, we've been missing the fluidity of the first couple of games. Maybe that was a bit of a manager bounce, who knows? But, you know, West Ham, Everton, Crystal Palace didn't look our best. So I do understand it. And I just think, again, like Crook said, it's how they react and how they move forward from this. You know, what was it Sir Alex Ferguson used to say, like, every team loses, it's part of the game, but it's what you do with it that counts. And this is a really great test for Michael Carrick moving forward, because if he does want this Manchester United job, this is the moment that he's got to really stand up and be counted, because after a loss, we can all win and we can all have that great run, but to be deflated, to have to come back from that against Aston Villa, it'll be interesting to see what he does.